Coming up today, Polestar joins Tesla's NACS for North American charging access. Volkswagen enter talks with Tesla too. Electrify America will incorporate those NACS chargers from 2025. Chevrolet announces the base pricing of their Silverado EV. And Toyota drops in brand loyalty. It's getting a kicking by Tesla. Well, thanks for watching. I'm Martin Lee. We go live at 5 p.m. UK, that's midday Eastern, here on YouTube. A longer version of the podcast where we dig into all of these stories much deeper happens on the audio versions. Patreon supporters get the audio episodes as soon as they're ready and ad-free. Be like them by clicking on a link in the video description below. Right, let's kick off, and Polestar has announced it will adopt Tesla's NACS connector, joining others like Ford, GM, Rivian, and of course, their sister company, Volvo. It gives Polestar drivers in the US and Canada access to the supercharger network from 2025, where their vehicles will have the NACS connector on the side of them. Adapters will be available in the middle of 2024 to allow existing Polestar drivers to access the supercharger network. VW is also in discussions with Tesla over adopting the NACS standard. That's really interesting. It comes as many others have already made the move. But Volkswagen would be a big one, not only because they're so large, but of course they're one of the big German names as well, who I think it'll take a while for them to announce. But what do I know? I don't think it would happen at this brutal pace already. And Electrify America, of course, we'll get onto them in a minute, is linked with Volvo. Well, they are a Volkswagen company. And so I would be so surprised to have an announcement soon from one of the big Germans, the BMWs, Mercedes-Benz, and of course the Volkswagens as well. But VW, for now, will continue supporting CCS here in, well, not just the UK, but Europe as well. So I don't think they're going to do a wholesale change, but I think a lot of these car companies will probably end up with 3 different plugs. So that'll be NACS, it'll be CCS2 here in Europe, and what in China and in Japan, probably what CHAdeMO becomes just Xiaoji. I think there'll be 3 plugs going forward, but I don't know. What do I know? I've been so surprised at the rapid rollout. I think a Volkswagen or a big German name would be a really big deal, more so than the next names we're expecting, which is like Stellantis or like a Hyundai group. So yeah, I mentioned Electrify America. And, again, big news, they will transition to NACS chargers by 2025. They're the second largest EV fast charging network in the US. They plan to add Tesla's connector to their charging stations. By 2025, Electrify America aims to incorporate the connector into existing and also any future chargers alongside CCS1. They can't just rip all the CCS plugs off because all the cars at the minute have those sockets on the side of them. We've had ChargePoint make an announcement, and Kempower. Oh, let me get on to another story. Blink Charging, provider of EV charging solutions. They yesterday announced plans to integrate the NACS connector by Tesla into their entire product range, but no waiting around for them. They aim to make all its charging products NACS compatible by October this year, following the trend from over the last 3 weeks, maybe, when was it, 4 weeks maybe, when Ford first announced. It's been a really rapid rollout. Blink will begin producing NACS high-power chargers this October, and they'll have some dual units with NACS and 1772 connectors early 2024. Now, let's talk about a new study by JD Power. Tesla's chargers are more reliable than their competitors. Tell us something we don't know. But JD Power have done the numbers for us. Tesla vehicle owners reported the high satisfaction rate on a 1,000-point scale. They rated them 734. Doesn't sound like it's a huge score. It's not in the 900s, but when you look at the average score, which was 558, it's clear that the supercharger network is well loved by those that use it. 19,500 connectors, the largest DC fast charging network in the US compared to the CCS network, which has, I think, about 11,500 fast chargers at the moment. This new JD Power report suggests that if other charger manufacturers could replicate the user experience, then the overall experience would improve. Again, tell us something we don't know. That's the best thing about the Tesla connector on a Tesla car, is it's always always going to work. I don't know any Tesla owner that plugs in and then stands there waiting for the lights. You plug it in, you walk away. You know it's going to work. The rest of us using, well, I'm a CCS2 here, but, the rest of us wouldn't dream of walking away. You plug in, you wait, you hear the clonk in the charger, you hear some connectors going, and maybe, if you're lucky, your car will charge. Okay, let's move on. I'm only half joking, by the way. Chevrolet has announced the base trim of the Silverado EV, starting at $50,000, because it was meant to be a $40,000 truck. It was never going to be that in a million years, was it? We all knew that. We wanted to know the real price. Look, they're not the first car maker. They won't be the last to announce a product with a price that is not the price it goes on the market for. They have to walk that back. Yes. However, the actual MSRP is subject to change, of course. There'll be different price ranges, all the way up to $80,000 for the the top one of those, which is going to be the big battery. It begins with a 4. So the ones that begin with the 3 will be the 350 mile, and then the 4, like the 4WT, which is 4 work truck. And that's the big battery. And of course, the big price as well. But hey, over 400 miles, if that is real, and there's some great videos out there at the minute. You can check out the charging videos, like I mentioned with my friend Tom Malogney from State of Charge, and the out-spec channels as well with Kyle. He had got a bunch of actually Chevrolet EV, Silverado EV videos to go and check out. And it's a big old battery, though. It's 210 kilowatt hours on the big one. So yeah, to get 400 miles it's great, but you'd expect it. All right, moving on. Let's talk Germany. And here in Europe, Germany will earmark 900 million euros in subsidies for electric car chargers, both for domestic households and companies as well. They want to have 1 million charging points by 2030, as Germany has about 1.2 million full EVs on its roads right now. The target is 15 million by 2030. The subsidies will be supporting the construction of charging stations, and that's both domestically initially this year, about the first €500 million will be for domestic installs, and then next summer the rest of it will be for workplaces. Now, let's talk about more capacity coming from LG, pushing ahead with their Michigan EV battery plant expansion. The South Korean battery supplier, LG Chem, is making their Holland, Michigan plant bigger, to go from 5 gigawatt hours a year to 25 gigawatt hours a year. It's a $1.7 billion expansion, completed, they say, in 2024. So that's all I know. Pick a month, with battery production starting in April of 2025. And let's talk now a little bit about batteries in Teslas. The refreshed Tesla Model 3, I haven't talked a lot about it on the podcast. And by the way, all of these stories, we expand upon all of them in more detail, and we dig deeper on the audio version of this podcast. YouTube version is a little bit shorter, by the way, and some brevity, I think, required for the video version. But audio version, maybe it's 25, 30 minutes some days. You can check that out on all good podcast platforms and a couple of the questionable ones as well. Let's talk Tesla's upcoming Model 3 refresh. It was meant to be on the road by now, if you believe the rumours of 3 months ago. But we do know that the Model 3 is being refreshed. Highland is the name, the code name. And they're going to be using, we think, CATL's new lithium iron phosphate cells. CATL is the Chinese company that is the world's biggest EV battery maker. They're called M3P cells. The battery's probably going to get bigger as well by 6 kilowatt hours in the Model 3, so 60 kilowatt hours to 66 kilowatt hours. CATL has become one of Tesla's main battery manufacturers for vehicles produced at Gigafactory Shanghai, which underwent a refurb earlier this year to get ready for the new Model 3. And Model Y is a 2024 refresh, we think. Tesla, according to this report, this is a bit more of a speculative one, and I would expect them to be talking to everybody. But StoreDot, that is the Israeli company that makes extreme fast charging battery technology. They use 30 amp hour pouch cells. Tesla is said to be interested in StoreDot's technology. These vehicles these batteries will enable vehicles that charge very, very quickly. And StoreDot is one of those companies, there's many companies in EV sphere, the EV world, that talk a good game and never really deliver. StoreDot I think do deliver. I think those batteries are now certainly off the test bench and they're with potential customers. I think they are in vehicles right now. And so test vehicles on the road, their roadmap is to do 100 miles of charging in 5 minutes by next year. And that improves all the way through to 100 miles of charging in 2 minutes by the end of the decade. And they seem to be hitting their milestones. Of course, that is dependent on the efficiency of the vehicle they're in. But still, so that seems like it would be good for something like a Tesla Roadster to me. If it is more expensive, but more of a premium product. Down at the other end of the market, we don't talk about Suzuki very much. Well, we can't. They don't make any EVs, but they are going to make an EV by 2025. We've seen some new photographs that show the production car could closely resemble the EVX concept that they have already revealed in India, and usual stuff. So big widescreen displays inside, center console looks pretty modern, on the road by 2025, 2026. We think as that Japanese company finally catch up with, everyone else. Aston Martin are next in the news. They have some catching up to do. We talked about their partnership with Lucid, but the iconic British luxury car maker has a big shareholder in the form of Geely. The Chinese company has said that they want to invest in Aston Martin to work with them, and that would make sense because Geely, owner of Volvo, Polestar, know how to do electric vehicle supply chains, much like Lucid know how to make batteries and the powertrains, which Aston Martin are buying in, and now Aston will use Geely's supply chain. Their expertise and their experience in the EV market will help them make not only a smooth transition, but a much quicker one as well to bring Aston's first electric vehicle to market, to offer them the chance to do that at a faster pace, to reduce costs, to make them more affordable, although Aston won't be looking at making low-price cars. And that's why they have done this deal with a major shareholder of theirs. It makes sense for those two companies to work together. New EU legislation is next in the news. The European Union Parliament has approved legislation aimed at making EV batteries more environmentally friendly, impacting the design, production and waste management of batteries sold in the EU. The goal is to meet the increasing demand of EVs with batteries that have lower emissions and are made from more recycled materials. It includes a requirement for a digital passport, let me put it that way, that tracks the environmental impact of those batteries through their life cycle, whether it's then coming out of a vehicle and going into second life or home storage or grid support, that kind of thing. Okay, let's talk Toyota. And for it's almost a kind of a bit of a running joke with me now. I'm not Toyota's biggest fan because of how much they advertise against electric vehicles. They've got to go EV at some point. And I've, as much as people think I hate them and want to see them fail, I don't like their marketing, but Toyota won't fail as long as they still have people that want to drive their vehicles, because they're not making EVs at the minute, but that's fine. They're selling lots of combustion stuff and lots of people are Toyota fans. But there is a problem, because the brand loyalty in this latest study has fallen off a cliff. It's dropped to 7th place in the S&P Global Mobility study, and they're normally up there, tied at the top. The demotion was partly because of customers defecting to companies like Tesla. 5% of those who are Toyota fans have gone over to Tesla. Ford and Chevrolet remain at the top of the rankings. Tesla is the only brand with over 60% loyalty, 68% brand loyalty in the luxury segment. I haven't put out a new vehicle since 2020, but the brand loyalty is increasing with Tesla. And it wouldn't be a problem for Toyota if they have those fans there, that if they come to the market with a decent EV, because the BZ4X is a bit rubbish, in 3 years or 5 years or 6 years, if they still have that big fan base, Toyota are going to be fine. I'm not worried about them. If they haven't got the fans out there, if it's ever-decreasing circles, they're in real problems unless they bring some decent EVs to the market and get people excited about driving Toyotas again. Right, last couple of stories. Mining is next here in the UK, in the southwest, Cornwall, beautiful part of the country. There's going to be a new lithium mine, a start-up British venture called British Lithium, joining with a French mining company called Imerys, and there's enough for 20,000 tonnes of lithium ore, about 500,000 vehicles worth every year. That is by the end of the decade when it's up and running, though. And the government here want to have a self-sustaining EV industry making batteries for the British car industry, which, let's face it, is on its knees a little bit at the minute compared to what it was in the past. There is still some decent manufacturing here, but the niche stuff, the motorsports, the kind of high-end, that's all doing fine here. That we excel at that. It's just the mainstream manufacturing of electric vehicles. I don't see that as being. I probably shouldn't say this, but I don't see that as being our forte going forward. But you know what politicians are like? They'll say the right thing to the right person in front of the right microphone at the right time and say, "Well, we're going to have a great British car industry making our own batteries here." But that's good news. Mining is good news. And finally, the next time you order a hot, fresh, steaming pizza, I want one now. Domino's are going to have, they say, the largest EV pizza delivery fleet in the United States. 1,100 branded Chevy Bolts are going to be added by the end of the year. That's a big fleet order, in fairness. And the company's already reached its goal of 800 EVs on the road right now. The EVs will provide benefits. They say lower maintenance costs, longer life cycle in terms of the vehicle. More drivers want to drive electric vehicles. Perfect for pizza delivery, a bit like parcel delivery. Stop, start all the time. Regen kicks in. Urban areas often as well. EVs make perfect sense for use cases like this. And that is your show for today. Thanks so much for watching the YouTube version of this. If you'd like that to expand upon any of the stories we've talked about today, check out the audio version. Maybe add that to your podcast apps if you have them on your device or whatever. Subscribe to EV News Daily, and then you've got a choice. Then you can either have the shorter version in Vision here on YouTube or a longer version as we dig deep into all of today's stories and have a little chat about what it could mean. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one, and remember, there is no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.